I am so under the weather, it isn't even fucking crazy. Yo, Professor Art here. What's up? I have a headache. I got a sore throat. It's definitely, oh man, it probably is. Oh, it's the viruses going around that you can't mention the name of. Nah, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's probably a little cold. I feel better in the next 24, 48 hours. Who the hell knows? But what is up, guys? So this video is essentially my introduction to my experience in regards to anabolic steroids. You heard it, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna be talking about my experience with them, not using them. I'm a lifetime natural athlete. I'm a natural bodybuilder. This is what I do. I'm a natural bodybuilder with a passion with a passion for staying as natural as I can, without utilizing an external source of push. Like I don't want to use drugs to attain a maximum overall bodybuilder physique. Fuck that noise. I love the whole natural game of iron. I will never take drugs, right? Okay, so this is basically my introduction to how I found out about steroids as a kid, and moving towards it as a teenager on towards an adult, which I think I hope I'm an adult right now. I'm in my 20s, so I must be an adult, right? Yeah, so I discovered what steroids were when I was roughly 11 years of age, back in 2007. This was when I was, my brother and I, we were big fans of wrestling growing up. We loved wrestling. Yo, you couldn't even, bro, if, Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, we used to sneak to watch these things because, actually my dad put us on wrestling. My dad was a huge wrestling fan. He introduced us to wrestling. He was a huge fan of it. He loved the guys like Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. My dad was a super fan of these guys, right? So he introduced us to wrestling. And it got crazy. My brother and I used to perform these wrestling moves on each other, and it was very fucking violent. So that's a different story for it altogether. But we would sneak to watch these guys perform and do all these crazy stunts, backflips and shit. Power moves, technical guys like Shawn Michaels. My favorite wrestler of all time was John Cena. I don't care, love him or hate him. Hell, he's a fucking legend right now. But I'm going beyond a tangent here. So I discovered what steroids were back in 2011 when Chris Benoit became infamous for, what he became infamous for murdering his family and eventually committing suicide. Yes, and the topic of anabolic steroids brought up because they found that in the system. They found that along with a bunch of other compounds, such as painkillers and whatever the sort of. But yeah, this prompted the WWE to test extrinsically, test aggressively for steroids. Now, albeit how you feel about the testing is a different story, whether or not it's legitimate or not. But in this documentary, they brought up figures such as the Macho Man Randy Savage, Dynamite Kid, Hulk Hogan himself. You have these men who are being put into question for their anabolic use. I know that Dynamite Kid eventually ended up dying from taking anabolic steroids, and I know Hulk Hogan, he's not dead. Thank God he's not dead right now. However, he did come out the closet, so to speak, and say, what's his catchphrase? His catchphrase was to all my little Hulkamaniacs, say your prayers, take your vitamins, you will never go wrong. We know what vitamins he was taking. He's taking good old vitamin S to get those swole pump 23-inch pythons. We all know that. But yeah, so Chris Benoit, it was very unfortunate what happened to his family, very unfortunate what happened to him. The overall route that he went down with was really, really fucked up. Now, I was an 11-year-old looking at this shit, and I was like, wow, man, steroids, these drugs are evil. So I correlated these drugs with suicide and going to, roid rage. That's what I correlate these drugs with. And my favorite wrestlers of all time, I had to come to terms with the fact that a lot of them might be on drugs. Now, it never really mattered in the end, considering that another man's natural status doesn't do much towards your own physical well-being. We should all strive towards maximizing our own state. It shouldn't matter what Joe Schmo over there is injecting in his body. What should matter is whether or not you personally, how are you going to go towards your own goals? Is it going to be through some sort of androgenic effect, some sort of something that's coming out of a bottle, or are you going to bust your ass this game of iron and earn your chips, earn your Rice Krispie treats, as I'm going to say right now, right? I'm going to turn into a catchphrase. Earn your Rice Krispie treats, right? You got to earn it. Earn your fucking carbs, right? Are you going to earn it yourself? So I never really cared about that to the extent. Well, I did want to engage in some internet debates in the past, but I never did because I didn't have an account. Right? That's besides the point. But going into the extreme things, I had a negative perception of steroids through Chris Benoit's documentary. I perceived it as cheating. I perceived it as the athlete. I perceived it as the athlete not utilizing their own internal skill, their own will, their own drive to be the best version that they can. I interpreted that as, the next guy is. This is how naive I was as a kid. I perceived it as, oh, the next guy isn't using drugs, but you're using drugs. It turns out everyone's using drugs. Like when it comes to certain athletic events, a lot of these guys are using drugs. So the argument is, why wouldn't you use drugs, right? And to answer that question is, I'm someone who has so much pride in the fact that I'm natural now. I love to have the mental fortitude of believing that my own accomplishments are derived from my own goddamn testicles. Like, my masculinity is not reduced to something that's in a fucking bottle. I can walk around and say that I'm able to lift this amount of weight and look this great because of my overall dapper ability to program, my great ability of being intuitive and being in touch with my own body, progressively overloading on certain weights, not being afraid to test my own body, not being able to test my limits, and not being afraid of the final destination. There's no final destination. I learned to enjoy the overall road, which drugs, they take that away. So moving on. So let's go back to 2012, the first golden age of YouTube fitness, where you had guys like Ziz, I think. You had guys like Ziz, you had the Hall Twins, you had Furious Pete. Oh man, this is awesome. You had Omar Esoff stepping in, you had Chris Jones representing positions of greatness. Now, from my perspective, the Hall Twins were always natural. I don't care what anybody says, the Hall Twins were natural. Big, tall, wide-shouldered motherfuckers. Like, I knew they were natural. Like, from my perspective, they were fucking natural. Like, I thought to myself, it's possible to get that fucking big, because I'll see guys in my high school big as shit. And I was thinking to myself, these, like, how can they afford drugs? Which, of course, high schoolers can afford drugs. Don't quote me on that saying that high schoolers can't afford these drugs. But yeah, so the Hall Twins were preaching the mindset of staying natural. You had guys like Omar Esoff preaching the mindset of staying natural. You had Furious Pete preaching the mindset of staying natural. You had even the buff dudes. People don't think they're natural. Oh my God, look, oh man. You're 200 pounds, you all of a sudden have a six-pack. You must not be natural anymore because you have veins coming out of your shoulders and veins coming down to your goddamn chest and shit. Oh, you can't be natural. However, we think this way because the bar has been set so low that anybody with a moderately impressive physique is going to be, their natty status will be brought into question, because these stick figures who were on 4chan at the time, now it's Twitter. Twitter is leftist 4chan. Oh shit, I got political. But yeah, Twitter is leftist 4chan. You heard it first. But yeah, you had guys on 4chan, guys on Natty or Not, guys making Natty or Nots, even guys within the Natty or Not comment sections of videos with their pessimism and their doubt of being able to achieve a great physique, and they set the bar so low that even guys like me, I remember going in the comment section and commenting on a certain methodology of muscle building, such as the 5x5 movement, only sticking to that. My comment went along the lines of, the 5x5 is rudimentary and you would eventually stagnate, because the reps are static and you're doing the same thing over and over again expecting different results. That's the literal definition of insanity. Now, I didn't say that verbatim, but I said something similar to that. That's my interpretation of the previous events. And someone replied back, all you do, like, they looked at my whole profile picture and thought, oh man, this guy's juicing. Visible labs, veins all the fuck over. Like his shoulders are kind of big. Chest is saucy as shit. So he's on drugs. Then he literally typed back, oh man, stick to what you're good at. You're good at sticking. You're good at injecting drugs into your ass and getting bigger. You're not great at programming. The 5x5 is without a question the superior methodology of building muscle. Now, of course, he didn't word it as sophisticated as I stated. Like his verbiage was all fucked up and all ruined. It was like some redneck hillbilly hick. The way he was typing shit out, it was hard as fuck to understand. But it was so it wasn't so fucked up that you couldn't understand. Aside from the grammatical errors, you understood what the fuck he was trying to say, right? He was basically saying that I injected shit in my ass to get me this big, and I don't have a knowledge of programming. However, when you click their profile pictures and you look at how they look, right, it's either some anime image or it's either some obscure profile image that doesn't convey how they look, and that's very telling. That shows you that one, they're not confident in themselves. Two, they don't have an idea what they're talking about. Three, the standards have been set so low that you have these 19-year-olds and these high school kids who think that they have to use drugs to get to a moderately aesthetic physique. They think you have to just take drugs, and it's so fucked up how far we gotten. So back in the 2012ish YouTubes, the 2012 era of YouTube fitness, being enhanced was looked upon as the dark side, genuinely the dark side. No one was open about it. It was a don't ask, don't tell type of deal. And if you were on drugs, people would just pretty much just unsubscribe. Even people would leave your videos. People would leave nasty comments on your threads and say, "Yeah, like it was that bad." Like being unnatural was looked upon as something that just like that was hearsay. It was, how do you say, burning a witch at the stake. Like it was looked upon as something that's just completely just immoral all around. Whereas now, instead of being more nuanced, we've shifted the complete opposite. Now, I remember underneath that same comment section, you have somebody replying back to the same guy who replied to me saying that, oh, taking drugs is okay as long as you train, as long as you get blood work done, it's okay to take drugs. Now, this guy didn't defend my natty status. He was defending my supposed drug use, which is kind of fucked up when you think about it, because he wasn't saying that I wasn't on drugs. He was just defending the fact that he was defending my decision to take drugs, which isn't necessarily a bad thing inherently from an ethical standpoint. However, it shows you how far we've come from. We went from chastising those who take drugs to automatically embracing drug use altogether, which there is no room for nuance. We can't see the bigger picture of things. So in the 2012 era of YouTube, vastly different than what it was today. Today, fast forward to me, like I call it my roaring 20s, which is the state of which I'm at right now, my roaring 20s. So you had my naive tweens, my cringy teens, and now I'm in my roaring 20s. Which I look at my previous album like, man, that motherfucker was so cringe, right? And I'm sure when I'm 30, I might look at myself like, oh man, I was so cringe. Or when I'm like 40, I might look at myself like I'm so cringe. But I don't have that perception. I hope I don't look back at myself and say, oh, that's so cringe. But that's beside the point. So, yeah. Now in my 20s, it's this whole mindset of I'm looking at these kids, right? They're 15, taking the synthetic angiotensin modulators. That's very popular with these kids. They're taking straight up Anavar. They're taking HGH. They're taking fucking Trimbolone. Drugs that were used on cattle to maximize the overall muscle mass on cows, on fucking goats. Like, they're taking drugs to kill a goddamn elephant. They're sticking down their body, right? And they're 15, looking like they're 25 already. And holy hell, this lighting effect is pretty good. I'm gonna leave it, but they're taking these drugs to make themselves appear, they're edging their faces, they're getting physiques that they would have had if they trained onto their early 20s, they would have had remarkable physiques. However, they're getting everything up front and then some. And once you get on these things, you're on there for life. You might do a post-psychotherapy, which is what they call, I think it's called PCP or something like that. It might not be called that, but it's post-psychotherapy, which is, I don't know the intricacies of it, but you're trying to get your test levels back to the overall levels that they were naturally. And some people, they don't recover. It's all fucked up, so they're on these drugs for life. And my mindset currently at the moment is, do you really want your masculinity and your overall well-being as a man, your ability to craft, your cognitive functions, your artistry, your thinking abilities, your abilities to strive and conquer, your abilities, your desire to conquest? Do you want that to be dependent on, do you want that to all come out of a fucking bottle? Do you want your manhood, your masculinity to be defined by drugs you implant in your body? No. Now, as someone who's very libertarian in regards to, that's how, at the age of 19, I've been very, I wouldn't call myself a, a conservative, albeit like entirely. However, I do have conservative values, but I understand someone's freedom to destroy themselves. And if you have a freedom to destroy yourself, by all means, go ahead and destroy yourself. Just ensure that your destruction is not a financial burden upon my my financial economic well-being and my physical well-being. Like, destroy yourself by all means. Destroy yourself, right? But don't have it so that you're affecting the lives of others. However, I will try my best to deter you from that lifestyle. Just because I'm not supportive of a particular lifestyle doesn't mean that I'm going to outright restrict your freedom to engage in such a lifestyle. However, that doesn't mean I'm going to encourage you either. That doesn't mean I won't turn a blind eye and I won't judge you. That's the funny part about people who have a live and let live mindset. They think being libertarian means that you have to just accept everything and not judge. No, you're not free from judgment. You're free from physical force. You're free from me restricting your freedom to engage in a particular activity. However, you're not free from scorn. You're not free from me ridiculing your behavior. I am going to ridicule your behavior and say TRT at the age of 20 when you fucked your sense levels at the age of 16. Yes, I will ridicule you. That's because I don't view what your decision. I don't view what you've done as smart. You fucked up. And yeah, now on to my passion for wrestling. It didn't matter that these guys were enhanced. Like, I don't, till this day, like, I don't care if my favorite wrestler of all time is enhanced, because I'm happy with my physique. I love how I look, because at my infancy, my greatest influences for bodybuilding in general, right? So my dad initially got me into it when I was trying to arm wrestle him and beat him. Now your boy crushes. I crush my dad. Yeah, like I'm probably gonna beat a middle-aged man who's slowly dying and going away. Yeah, I'm so proud I can do that. Ah, yeah, awesome. Yeah, me, I'm so awesome. But yeah, so besides him, two of my biggest influences were Dragon Ball Z. Seeing Son Goku, with his big ass back and his huge fucking baller body, right, big as shit, right, and seeing John Cena just F you motherfuckers, yeah, like not the attitude adjustment, like back when it was called the FU and the SCFU, the fuck you and the shut the fuck up, like back when he was called that, like I was inspired by that version of him, just fucking shit up, walking in big as fuck, brawling, right, with a stern, with a very stern, snarky yet confident swagger that he had back in the day, right? Like he was the top dog. No one could fucking defeat this man, right? And if you look at the way he trained outside the actual ring, he was a fucking beast. And I applied a similar mindset towards my desire to be big, because growing up when I was roughly, so it's a strange transition. So I went from being a sort of pudgy kid to to being a skinny kid in middle school. So my in my tweens I was a skinny motherfucker, right? Being a skinny kid in the later half of middle school to almost getting there in high school. Like towards the end, everybody noticed because I didn't have that much equipment, so I would just train my ass off at home with what I had, to eventually developing a physique that was great in the eyes of many. That I would inspire people who like, they walk up to me, like they'd ask me like, how old are you, right? Like 17-year-old kids would walk up to me and ask me, how old are you? Oh, how long have you been training for? Wow, like I hope somebody look like you. I hope somebody, like, if I could look at half as good as you, I'd be content. And that's so refreshing. Like, if I can save at least if I can deter one kid from taking these drugs, then I've succeeded in mitigating the overall pain. Now, it won't be significant because you have these dumbass kids who just they watch a Derek Replace More Dates video, and all they hear is these drugs make you big, and that's all. Like, you remember when you were a kid, all you give a fuck about was the end result. You didn't care about the negative results. You just care about now, instant gratification. So yeah, if I can deter someone from taking these drugs, then I've succeeded. I've succeeded in building a community of natural bodybuilders who want to strive and become so big that people who are on the street think we're on drugs. That's the goal. Getting so swole that people think, they say, oh man, it's impossible. No, it's not impossible. It's that you're so mediocre. You are so mediocre that you perceive that what we're doing is as impossible. And yeah, this video is long enough. I'm probably not going to edit tonight. I'm done. Peace, guys.
Choose your fighter.